Previously, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Filza Hasibuan. I am a student of the English Education Study Program in University of Medan. To fulfill one of the tasks assigned by my lecturer, I'm here once to tell you about one of my unforgettable experiences. It happened a long time ago, but these days the experience still lingers in my memory. If I am not mistaken, the incidents occurred during the admissions of new high school students. Long short story, our family spent about 3 days in Banda Aceh and goes to Sabang Island as our next trip. Traveling by ferry in about half an hour, we then gathered when the guide had brought our car off the boat. After spending about 2 days enjoying the food trip in Sabang, we prepared to snorkel. We rented a lot of equipment, including a boat that took us to Rubia Island and a special guide for diving. We hired a guide who also knew the underwater photo spots. Of course, he also brought a GoPro type camera so that our photos will be better. However, among all the fun trips, in fact, that's not what I can forget to this day. It was a fun ride. Sure, but that doesn't seem to be the point. After returning from Rubia Island and finding that I was using my feet so much in snorkeling that it was difficult for me to move my feet, I walked a bit limping towards the inn, which luckily was close to the diving equipment rental base. After showering and sleeping for a while, I woke up with super stiff legs. It hurts so much when I bend my leg. It feels like all my veins are strained and I won't be able to walk normally for a few days. The next day, we were at the port of the island of Sabah, about to return to the city of Banda Aceh. The weather was clear, not showing a single cloud in the sky. In short, we were already on the ship. We decided to sit at the very top of the boat in order to freely capture the atmosphere when we left the island. Because it was difficult to move, I just sat with my mother next to me. That's when everything was different. The clear sky that initially did not show the slightest cloud suddenly darkened. Slowly, when our ship was about to depart, the sea was covered in quite a thick fog. I hadn't thought of anything, instead jokingly said, "Oh, this looks like a scene from the Pirates of the Caribbean." I laughed louder, realizing that the mom I was talking to didn't understand such things. I continued. The pirate scene on the ship surrounded by fog and thick wine. I think it would be perfect if it's added a little wine in storm. It will be just like in the movies. But I regret saying that. Like a spell, in an instant as the ship was getting closer to the middle of the sea, the wine grew stronger. The rain fell heavily, flying everything on the ship. My face was pale. Fear quickly spread throughout the ship. The local people who were also on the boat immediately said zikr amidst at the torrential rain and strong winds at that time. The atmosphere was happy, now filled with the sobs of children and adults. I remember very well the expressions of my parents and siblings, especially mom. She hugged me tight, knowing that I wouldn't be able to walk to save myself. Slowly, I cried, accompanied by the crowing voice of zikr from a group of local people. I really thought that day could indeed be the end of my life without doing any previous worship. And an announcement was heard from the captain when signaling the passengers to calm down. However, who could calm down in such a situation? Zikr sounded louder. Children and the elderly were evacuated to a closed lower cabin. Our clothes were already soaking wet, while our eyes gleamed at the waves hitting in the side of the ship. The mind immediately turned to past even because at the time there was a lot of talk about the ship in Lake Toba and the sinking of the Kalimantan. I resignedly started thinking, this is how it ends. I'll be one of the many victims on the list. Rising waves, strong winds, drizzling rain, the tears on my skin, and sound of zikr seemed to surround me at the time, as if to make me give up and think that this is the end. But I don't think God wanted to make me the ending of my story that sad. Like the more the ship moved away from the middle of the sea, the calmer the weather was, like nothing had happened. Gradually, the zikr and the call to prayer became smaller. One by one, nervous breaths ended in relief. The cabin of the ship was quiet without a sound. I think everyone's grateful in their hearts. A split second after the ship docked at the dock, my mother and I, who passed through the lower cabin, were shocked because the cabin seats were already wet and the floor was very muddy due to the high waves that hit. Until now, the memory on the ship is like one thing that is hard for me to let go of. Being traumatized, getting on a boat was like letting myself sing a second time. When we got off the ship, soaking wet at the time, our family immediately performed a prayer of thanksgiving that until now we are still safe. We can still enjoy the beautiful features that God has created on the earth. This experience is very memorable. The experience of despair that I observed from the people around me made me realize that life is very, very valuable to be wasted by doing unproductive or useless activities. Goodbye.